Lie down, eh? Touch. What's the matter? Jesus! Fuck!
Chev is a highly skilled assassin, known for his expertise in eliminating elite and powerful individuals. He works under the command of Carlito, a dominant ringleader who controls a vast and dangerous Mexican cartel. At Carlito's behest, Chev had previously assassinated Kim, a prominent Chinese rival of one of Carlito's associates, an act that earned Chev a host of vengeful enemies. One morning, Chev wakes up feeling disoriented and weak. His vision is blurred, his body feels heavy, and he can barely keep himself upright as he stumbles toward his living room. There, he finds a video disc sitting ominously on a table. Curious and uneasy, he plays it on his television. On the screen appears Ricky, a fellow hitman. With a smug expression, Ricky reveals that he injected Chev with a lethal toxin while he was asleep. He informs Chev that the poison is fast-acting and will kill him within an hour. Furious and horrified, Chev smashes the television in a fit of rage. He wastes no time and bolts out of his apartment, racing to his car. With death looming over him, Chev heads straight to a local nightclub, suspecting Ricky might be hiding there. While on the road, he calls Kalo, his trusted street informant, and instructs him to track down Ricky to help exact revenge. As he drives, Chev begins to feel his heartbeat slowing, his vision fading, and his focus slipping away. Despite the growing weakness, he manages to reach the club and storms through the entrance. Inside, he immediately grabs the club's owner and holds him at gunpoint, demanding information on Ricky's whereabouts. But the owner, visibly nervous yet composed, insists that he has no idea where Ricky is. Frustrated and out of patience, Chev leaves the club and hurries back to his car. A few minutes later, he contacts his doctor, Miles, and explains his deteriorating condition. Chev describes his symptoms in detail, hoping for a solution. After analyzing the information, Miles deduces that Chev has been injected with a rare and deadly poison known as the Chinese cocktail. The doctor explains that the toxin aggressively shuts down the body's ability to produce adrenaline, a process vital for survival. Miles advises Chev to stay physically active and constantly on the move to keep his adrenaline levels up, as any slowdown could lead to immediate death. However, the doctor also reveals that he is currently out of town and won't be back for a few hours. Chev acknowledges the advice and ends the call. At that very moment, Chev hears a police loudspeaker ordering him to pull over. Glancing into the rearview mirror, he sees several police vehicles closing in on him. Realizing the adrenaline boost he desperately needs, Chev decides to provoke a high-speed chase. Rather than stopping, he floors the accelerator and steers his car straight into a nearby shopping mall, with the police in hot pursuit. Inside the mall, he causes chaos as he swerves through crowds and obstacles, finally crashing his car onto an escalator. He then escapes through a service exit and bolts out onto the street. Once outside, Chev spots a taxi and immediately yanks the passenger out before jumping into the back seat. Shouting at the driver to step on the gas, Chev begins aggressively moving his body, bobbing his head wildly to keep his adrenaline flowing. After a short but tense drive, the cab pulls up outside a supermarket. Chev rushes inside, grabs the cashier, and threatens him with a gun. He quickly collects a stack of energy drinks from the shelves and gulps several of them down before rushing back to the taxi and instructing the driver to take him to Carlito's residence. Upon arrival at Carlito's lavish mansion, Chev joins the cartel boss in his pool and initiates a conversation. During their talk, Chev realizes that Carlito is already aware of his poisoning, and even worse, that Carlito himself ordered it. As it turns out, the cartel had been facing retaliatory attacks from Kim's Chinese gang after his assassination. In a move to restore peace and save his organization, Carlito decided to sacrifice Chev, offering him up as compensation to the vengeful gang. Enraged and betrayed, Chev storms out of the mansion, heads back to the cab, and violently throws the driver to the ground. He hijacks the vehicle and speeds off into the streets. A short time later, Chev receives another call from Dr. Miles, who provides him with more critical advice. This time, the doctor recommends acquiring epinephrine, a synthetic form of adrenaline, and tells him to get it from a nearby hospital. Chev expresses his gratitude and hangs up, only to receive another call, this time from Kalo. Kalo informs Chev that he has spotted Ricky's brother, Alex, at a nearby diner. Energized by the opportunity, Chev races to the location and waits outside for Alex to emerge. The moment Alex steps out, Chev ambushes him without hesitation. He attacks Alex with a butcher knife, severing one of his hands and knocking him to the ground. Grabbing him by the collar, Chev demands to know where Ricky is. Despite the pain, Alex refuses to give up any information about his brother. Instead, he musters the strength to lunge at Chev, knocking him down. Before things escalate further, Kalo arrives just in time and strikes Alex with a wooden stick, giving Chev the upper hand. Taking advantage of the distraction, Chev shoots Alex in the back, ending the confrontation. Following the violent encounter, Chev heads to a hospital, determined to find the epinephrine shot that could prolong his life. He disguises himself as a patient and walks calmly through the hospital corridors. But when he notices 2 police officers in a nearby ward, he suddenly sprints off, triggering another chase. He dodges through hallways and past startled patients, narrowly avoiding capture as he dashes down a flight of stairs. He soon spots a group of medical staff transporting a patient on a gurney. Chev charges toward them, grabs a nurse, and holds him at gunpoint, demanding an epinephrine shot. Terrified, the nurse fumbles through the supplies on the cart until he finally finds the vial and hands it to Chev. By now, Chev feels his heart rate plummeting again. In a desperate move, he devises a wild plan to stimulate his heart. He orders the nurse to shock him with a defibrillator. Initially, the nurse refuses, horrified by the request. But when Chev aims his gun at him, the nurse reluctantly complies. He presses the defibrillator pads to Chev's chest and activates the device, sending a massive jolt through his body. The shock is so intense that it launches Chev backward, throwing him into a nearby elevator. As the police approach the elevator to make the arrest, Chev pulls out his gun and fires at them, forcing them to retreat behind a wall. Still determined to escape, Chev throws an unconscious patient out of the elevator and slams the doors shut. As the elevator descends, Chev takes a deep breath, knowing he has only minutes left to outpace death, and possibly to find revenge. As the elevator descends, Chev wastes no time. He grabs the syringe, draws the epinephrine from the vial, and injects it into his body. However, he accidentally administers an overdose of the drug, which sends him into a frenzied overdrive. Suddenly hyperactive, Chev runs erratically through the city streets, buzzing with uncontrollable energy. He only comes to a halt when he notices a large crowd gathered on a sidewalk, watching a news broadcast on a TV displayed in a shop window. To his dismay, he sees that the police have officially launched a citywide manhunt for him. Elsewhere in the city, Ricky receives horrifying news. His men have delivered his brother Alex's severed hand to him. The sight of Alex's dismembered hand fills Ricky with rage, especially once he learns that Chev was responsible for the brutal act. Enraged and grieving, Ricky vows to hunt Chev down and eliminate him for good. Back in another part of the city, Chev begins to worry about his girlfriend, Eve. Wanting to ensure she's safe, he gives her a call. He's relieved to hear her voice and tells her he'll be at her place soon. Eve, unaware of the danger that's rapidly closing in around them, doesn't think much of the conversation and ends the call with a kiss and a casual goodbye. Just moments later, Chev spots a police officer on a motorcycle nearby. Without hesitation, he confronts the officer, seizes his gun, and threatens him to back off. Chev then mounts the bike, mocking the officer by riding in circles around him before tearing off down the road at high speed, racing toward Eve's house. Upon arrival, Chev urgently tells Eve to get dressed, urging her to come with him. As the couple steps outside the apartment, Chev spots one of Ricky's thugs lurking nearby. To distract Eve and avoid alarming her, Chev knocks her bag to the ground. While she bends down to retrieve it, he swiftly moves to the thug and violently snaps his neck, killing him instantly. Without saying a word, he dumps the body in a nearby pool and calmly rejoins Eve. Together, they leave the area and head downtown to a local restaurant. While they wait for their order, Chev finally opens up to Eve. He reveals that he's not who she thinks he is, that he's a professional assassin. He then explains the dire situation he's currently in, warning her that she too might be in danger. Eve is initially stunned, unable to process the sudden revelation. She assumes Chev is fabricating the whole story just to break up with her. Hurt and angry, she storms out of the restaurant. Chev follows quickly behind her, trying to catch up. He reaches for her hand, but in that moment, his heart begins to slow down drastically, and he collapses to the ground. Desperate to jumpstart his adrenaline, Chev begs Eve to help him by performing an intimate activity, right there in the middle of the street. Eve is stunned and calls him insane, but when Chev leans in and kisses her passionately, her hesitation fades. The next thing the crowd sees is the couple engaging in the bold act as passers-by cheer them on, creating a chaotic and bizarre spectacle in broad daylight. In the middle of the act, Chev receives a call from Kalo. The informant tells him that Ricky has been spotted at a nearby warehouse. Fueled by the opportunity for revenge, Chev throws his pants back on, kisses Eve goodbye, and rushes off toward the location. Eve, still slightly dazed, dresses herself as the crowd begins to disperse and go back to their normal lives. Upon reaching the warehouse, Chev finds himself ambushed by Carlito's men, and is devastated to discover that Kalo is dead. Quickly becomes clear that Carlito orchestrated the ambush. His men had tortured and killed Kalo, using his death as bait to lure Chev into a trap. Enraged and grieving, Chev pulls out his gun and immediately shoots down 2 of the cartel's men, sparking a fierce gunfight. As bullets fly, Chev suddenly sees Eve in the elevator within the building. Shocked and worried for her safety, he races toward her, using Kalo's corpse as a makeshift shield against incoming fire. Just as he dives into the elevator, a bullet strikes him in the leg, but he manages to get inside with Eve. The elevator descends to the ground floor, which is occupied by a group of tailors busy sewing garments. As one of Carlito's men tries to follow, Chev ambushes him and brutally shoves the man's hand into a sewing machine. The thug screams in agony as the blades tear into his flesh. With no time to spare, Chev and Eve flee the building and jump into a stolen car. But the danger is far from over. Carlito's men quickly pile into their own vehicles and give chase, initiating a fiery, high-speed pursuit. Chev swerves through traffic in an attempt to shake them off. The thugs open fire, aiming to end the chase once and for all. Fortunately, the bullets only shatter the back window of Chev's car. He returns fire with deadly precision, and his bullets strike the enemies, causing their vehicles to crash one by one. After finally escaping the ambush, Chev gets a call from Dr. Miles, who informs him that he has returned to town. Relieved to hear the news, Chev immediately drives to the doctor's residence. Once there, Miles gives him a fresh infusion of epinephrine to temporarily delay the poison's effects. However, the doctor solemnly informs Chev that there is no cure for the Chinese cocktail. According to Miles, Chev has only a few hours left to live. He offers to give Chev a painless poison to ease his final moments, but Chev refuses. He tells Miles that he still has unfinished business with Ricky. A few moments later, Chev calls Ricky and proposes a final meeting at a nearby hotel. Ricky agrees. Chev ends the call, kisses Eve goodbye, and promises to return. Hotel, Chev enters the bathroom, loads his gun, and conceals it under his coat. He steps into the elevator and rides to the top floor, where he is greeted by two of Ricky's guards. They roughly frisk him, confiscate his weapon, and escort him to the meeting room. Inside, Chev finds both Carlito and Ricky seated casually on a couch. After exchanging brief pleasantries, Carlito opens his briefcase and pulls out another syringe filled with the deadly Chinese cocktail. He instructs his men to hold Chev down while he prepares to inject him with a second dose, intending to finish the job once and for all. But before they can act, chaos erupts. One of Carlito's guards is suddenly shot in the head. Confusion spreads as everyone turns toward the source of the gunfire. Standing behind Chev is a group of armed men, the Chinese mafia, and at the front of the group is someone everyone thought was dead, Kim. In a flashback, it's revealed that Chev had previously spared Kim's life. Instead of killing him, Chev secretly told him to leave town and lay low. Kim obeyed, and rumors spread that he had been assassinated. In reality, he had been hiding all along. Now, in a gesture of gratitude, Kim has returned with his gang to help Chev take down Carlito and Ricky. Gunfire erupts inside the suite as Kim's men engage Carlito's crew. The room becomes a battlefield. Meanwhile, Carlito takes cover behind a wall and hurriedly calls his pilot, ordering a helicopter to land on the rooftop. Moments later, Chev sees Carlito escaping up a flight of stairs and chases after him. Just as Carlito is about to board the helicopter, Chev catches up, but is ambushed from behind by Ricky, who injects him with a second dose of the poison. Carlito, furious at Ricky's sudden reappearance, yells at him for abandoning him during the shootout. But instead of offering an apology, Ricky turns his gun and shoots Carlito in the chest. Carlito's lifeless body is then thrown out of the helicopter. Ricky shouts at the pilot to take off immediately. As the chopper lifts off, Chev clings to the door and lunges at Ricky. The two men engage in a brutal fistfight midair, grappling violently inside the hovering aircraft. Eventually, the struggle causes both men to fall from the helicopter. While plummeting through the sky, Chev grabs Ricky by the neck and twists it forcefully, snapping it cleanly and ending the vendetta once and for all. A few seconds later, Chev crashes onto a car parked below, bouncing off it and landing hard on the ground. His body lies motionless for a moment, until the camera zooms in on his wide, unblinking eyes. Suddenly, Chev blinks. The screen cuts to black, signaling that, against all odds, he is still alive.